if it's possible, I bet if this thing is big enough at the box office, enough critics are responding to this. I was surprised it has a 65% Rotten Tomatoes, which for a Christian movie is tremendous, because I know for a fact, I have heard over and over and over in 8 years of being a professional critic, most of the critics, in LA at least, scoff or refuse to see Christian movies. Mm-hmm. And this one has 65% from a good number of critics nationwide. And it got a rave in the LA Times. I was really pleasantly surprised to see that. And I think Quaid does such an incredible job in this movie that in a perfect world, he would be up for an Oscar, or somebody that you should be considering at the end of the year.
Yeah, he brought so much energy to the role of the father, and what the Erwin brothers really smartly did, and they acknowledged this when I interviewed them, is that they really relied on the strength of the story and let it be about the actors and about their performances. And a good example of that is many of the scenes, some really intense scenes between Dennis Quaid and J. Michael Finley as Bart Millard. They pointed out there's no camera tricks, and that's exactly the way that we wanted it. Yeah, it's just two actors just going toe to toe with each other, and it makes for some really the most powerful moments in the film.
Well, I was surprised that it's rated PG, because there's occasionally Christian films are even crossing into PG-13 when they're dealing with a really intense theme, and which this has some. And there's a scene in there I won't want to give away where Dennis does something so terrible to the kid that it's just like the whole theater, including me, were like, whoa.
Right,
you know?
yeah.
And you're just like, wow, man. And so I give them credit that they're also not sugarcoating the problems that people face in life that could lead them to go seek out God in a sense of faith. And just really well done. I mean, and I was holding my nose, is, obviously metaphorically going, okay, I'll see this because it's so big and I got to talk about this. But I came out just completely inspired and entertained, and it was almost like a Rocky kind of a story for Christians, in entertainment.
For sure, yeah. I was definitely skeptical too, but I was sitting there waiting for the other shoe to drop and for it to feel cliche or to feel preachy, and it never came. The whole time I was just sitting there and I was like, this is just a legitimately good movie.
Yeah. And, we should play, we got our wizard, Dr. David Robinson, to find the opening of the song through the first chorus. Just in case anybody's not familiar with it, I surprisingly wasn't, neither was Tanya. And the song just really, they also parse it out. The LA Times, in their near total rave about the movie, they said that the thing that amazed her most about it, aside from Quaid's performance, which she also said is award-worthy, Katie Walsh in the LA Times wrote this. She said that what was most surprising to her is that she's not particularly religious, and she's moved by the story because it was so well told. And then they keep bringing up like the song, and they cut away right as the kid's about to sing it, or they show him writing it, but never actually showing him hearing it till a key moment in the movie that I won't give away the context in which it's done, as a total surprise. And she said that that she was just floored by it, that it really hit her. And she's like, I gotta be honest, this song is powerful, and they did a brilliant job of only finding the perfect place to put it in once, not over and over and over. There have been some movies that have done that, and that she's right. So here's a little piece of it for anybody who hasn't heard it.
I can only imagine what it will be like when I walk by your side. I can only imagine what my eyes will see when your face is before me. I can only imagine. Surrounded by your glory, what will my heart feel? Will I dance for you, Jesus, or in awe of you be still? Will I stand in your presence? Or to my knees will I fall? Will I sing hallelujah? Will I be able to speak at all? I can only imagine. I can only imagine. I can only imagine when that day comes and I find myself standing in the sun. I can only imagine when all I would do is forever worship you. I can only imagine, yeah. I can only imagine. Surrounded by your glory, what will my heart feel? Will I dance for you, Jesus? Or in awe of you be still? Will I stand in your presence? Or to my knees will I fall? Will I sing hallelujah? Will I be able to speak at all? I can only imagine. Yeah, I can only imagine. I can only imagine when all I would do is forever worship you. I can only imagine.
And that was I Can Only Imagine on America's Top 40. I'm Casey Kasem. Long distance dedication to heaven. So, anyways, I always wanted to do
Smooth jazz from Radio Titans.
Yes. So, yeah, man, you know, we were just going to play the first verse and the chorus, but I mean, it's just such a good song. And I normally hate music like this. I'm sorry to say, God, and anybody out there but it just works in the movie. And the guy's vocal, I wanted to hear that soaring vocal towards the end, even if the words are a little bit cheesy, maybe a lot, I don't know, but it's really just so passionately sung that it just, wow, I don't know. Just a great movie.
Yeah, I mean, and it's interesting that the parallel, because I also find myself not really liking Christian rock a lot of the time, for the same reason that I find myself not enjoying a lot of contemporary faith-based films. And it seems like they suffer from the same problems. But
yeah.
I mean, in this case, you had kind of a transcendent song that transcended the genre, and then it leads to a movie that's kind of transcended being specifically for Christian audiences.
Yeah, and you know, and also we should mention, because we want to talk about Dennis Quaid as we go out in some depth, but there's like this whole little boom going on of Christian films. Passion of the Christ, I think, kicked it all off because it's the biggest, highest grossing R-rated movie in the U.S. like of all time, even to this day. Over $370 million in the U.S. alone, $611 million worldwide. And on top of that, I remember just popped into my head that there was heavy-duty bootlegging in Islamic countries, and Gibson was like, hey, I want this out there. He had a chance to shut it down, And he was like, no. We want this to evangelize. And so probably could have made another 50 to 100 million or something like that. But they wanted to get it out in the part of the world that wasn't open to it officially. But anyways, a couple of things this weekend is the return of Jim Caviezel, who played Jesus in the Passion of the Christ, into a faith-based movie. He's doing playing Paul. Is he playing Paul or is he playing Luke? Tanya got me all mixed up, but I have a description of this. There's a movie called Paul, Apostle of Christ, and it's by Sony Pictures, a Firm Films division, and they do. They're like the one studio that has the common sense to have an official giant division devoted to faith-based films, and they put out like 5 or 6 movies a year, and almost all of them are solid hits. They did Heaven is for Real, which made $90 million a couple of years back. They did Risen, which did like $45 million, and they did Jump in the Broom, which was a comedy about African-American church weddings, and that did like 35. And so anyways, they are behind this new movie, and it's got so I can only imagine it got a 65% from Rotten Tomatoes, meaning that anything over 60% is considered worth seeing, and 96%, I believe you read, of people that saw it loved it. It also has an A+ cinema score from audiences that were polled, which is obviously as high as you can get. It's very rare. Even among Christian films that are saturated by church audiences, a lot of times these movies top out at an A- or an A or a B+, and this one got an A+. And to be fair, forgot to mention this other movie, Love, Simon, interesting movie. This also opened last week, about the first big movie about a gay teen romance that also got an A+, and it has a lot of interesting things about family values and things like that judge if you so choose the theme of whether a gay teen romance movie is appropriate or not. But it is reality that there's lots of kids out there that are dealing with those kinds of emotions and orientation, and the movie, regardless of how you feel about the romance, has, I think, some beautiful stuff to say about family response and how the family embraces, learns to deal with, how they adjust to this kid's coming out. And
I have some dear friends of mine who are gay, and
Yeah.
they've said almost unanimously, they've been like, man, if this movie came out when I was...
No pun intended.
When yeah, sorry. Wow, not that quick. But yeah, they're like, man, if this was released when I was a teenager, I would have been so much happier. It would have been like such a burst of hope for me.
Yeah.
So I'm really happy that because like you said, it is a reality, and so the fact that there are teenagers who can see this and kind of rally behind it, I think is a really positive thing.
Well, they say, I just want to read real quick. Paul, Apostle of Christ, I'll skip through this long explanation on Rotten Tomatoes, but basically the trailer was confusing to me, but it has tells the story of Luke, friend and physician who risks his life every time he ventures in the city of Rome to visit Paul, who is held captive in Nero's darkest, bleakest prison cell. Before Paul's death sentence can be enacted, Luke resolves to write another book, one that details the beginnings of the way and the birth of what will come to be known as the Church. And as Nero is determined to rid Rome of Christians and does not flinch from executing them in the grisliest ways possible, bound in chains, Paul's struggle is internal. He has survived so much: floggings, shipwreck, starvation, stoning, hunger and thirst, cold and exposure. Yet as he waits for his appointment with death, he is haunted by the shadows of his past misdeeds. Alone in the dark, he wonders if he has been forgotten, and if he has the strength to finish well. Two men struggle against a determined emperor and the frailties of the human spirit in order to bequeath the gospel of Jesus Christ to the world. And the movie has a 26%, but from very few critics so far. But the ones, the quotes, they're not really knocking it hard. The ones that vote against it, and the ones that vote for it. Washington Post, of all places, very famously progressive/liberal paper that you would not expect to embrace a movie like this, says, offers both solace and a bracing, even revolutionary challenge. And Richard Roper, a good friend of mine, one of the top critics in the country, he also gave it a rave. saying costume, set, cinematography, editing are all first rate, along with the performances. So anyways, we ran out of time because we got so caught up in that song. I wanted to do something